This is a message from your guides reading for the child. All right, so I will surround us in some protective space for the reading with my turquoise. Okay, so turquoise is one that I pulled for you, and that is a throat chakra stone. So obviously, standing in your truth, clear communication. It helps you with speaking in front of groups or just in general, speaking with others, expressing yourself, and just in general communication. And then I have here my purple fluorite. So this stone aids with psychic abilities, clairvoyance, different things like that, as well as mental clarity and psychic protection. So it helps with a few different things. It's a really good stone to have. Amethyst also does a lot of similar things as the purple fluorite. Then I have here my sunstone. So this is one of the stones that I pulled for the group. This one and then my selenite here are for the whole group. I'm assuming anyway, as I've only got one more reading after this, and I've used them both for all the readings so far. So I figure they're for the whole group. Okay, so sunstone has to do with your sacral and also your solar plexus. So these two centers are kind of a focus for our group today. And then selenite tends to have to do with clearing, also with a higher energy coming through. And even with that, it feels like charging you, clearing you, charging you. And the charging with the selenite I'm getting specifically with your reading, but I've been getting that word kind of in general with the sunstone, because the solar plexus, even the sacral to a degree, but the solar plexus tends to kind of enhance all of the other chakras by charging them, kind of giving them this burst of energy when it's intact and it's working right. On the other hand, the sacral tends to clear out all of the chakras when it's working right. And you don't really hear about that so much with the other chakras, that if it's working right, it's going to help all these other chakras with this or that. But the solar plexus and the sacral tend to help all of those chakras with different things. Those two specific things is what I'm meaning. When they're actually working optimally themselves. Okay. So I know you were also asking about your throat. It's really funny because obviously throat has come up for pretty much everybody in our group. Just, I think actually, yeah, everybody in our group, at least everyone that I've given a personal reading for, so much. I actually had one person recently where it was in the opposite way, that their throat chakra was really like one of their stronger chakras, which was a first. I haven't channeled that once during the Patreon readings. But it's funny because I ended up doing the group reading recently, and there was the throat chakra coming up so much. And then I go to the questions today, and you're asking about your throat chakra, and someone else actually was as well in our group. So I know some of that was answered already. But I feel like yours, specifically this thought form you're asking about, and this is confusing because I don't know if I'm getting you confused. I thought the heart chakra had a thought form in her throat. And I'm saying that because I'm sure she had one in her throat too. But this is kind of weirding me out a little bit because I think that there might be some kind of almost connection with that. Or it might even just be that you can both help one another when it comes to releasing that and being able to communicate. I feel like this is more a thing about supporting one another and that you can both help one another clear it. That's more what it feels like. It doesn't feel like both of you had like a life together and you developed this block with your throats and now you're going to clear it. No, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like the connection has to do with communication. This might have to do with the thing that you were asking about with like making YouTube videos together. Yeah, I think that might have something to do with this, actually. I wouldn't have thought about that. So it has to do with this outward communication, but then I also feel like it has to do with the two of you supporting one another, and so you just feel kind of safer. And yours in particular, I feel like this is going back to some kind of fear. It feels like fear is what really caused this collapse with the throat chakra. Fear of being yourself in front of others, fear of being seen in front of other people. That one lifetime that already came up for you that was pretty negative, the one where you were in Asia, I feel like this was kind of increased somewhat in that lifetime. I don't feel like it started there, but in that lifetime you can kind of see where this was a big issue. You didn't really feel like you could voice yourself at all. You didn't feel like you had any power or like you could state your opinion and it actually mean anything. So you felt kind of powerless in that lifetime, and that would definitely affect this chakra for sure. You didn't feel like you could speak clearly what you wanted to say. You didn't feel like you could state what you want or get what you want. But there are other lifetimes that this goes back to, but it just has to do with hiding. And it has to do with a fear of being seen by others. Almost like you're going to be attacked in some way, or you're going to regret it if you do. Other people are going to say something or do something. And definitely people are going to say something to you at any point. But I feel like do something, not so much really in this lifetime. So I don't feel like you're going to be attacked unless it's just, you know, over the internet, someone saying something retarded. And that's just going to happen no matter what you do. That's, especially if you're going to make YouTube videos, you know, you're going to be deleting some comments. Trust me. I'll just tell you right now. Okay, let's see here. But I feel like you're going to be helping one another with that. So I feel like they're saying yes. I feel like this is a confirmation to the question that you were asking about the YouTube videos that you want to make. And you know what's funny is the reading prior to you sending that question, I had I had this feeling of the two of you almost starting, like, doing something together with your spirituality. It felt like it could be a business, or either way, it was something spiritual that you were going to be doing together. And I had that feeling, and then for some reason, then during the reading, I just didn't really feel to say it. I didn't feel like they were ready really to talk about that yet. And I feel like you have a lot of knowledge that you're bringing. The only thing I feel like they also want to say, though, is I feel like when you have this channel together, you don't have to make every video together. You can, but I don't know. I feel like it would be good for you, maybe even both of you, but this is your reading right now. I feel like, so specifically for you, since this is your reading, I feel like it would be good for you to also make at least a few videos kind of more more on your own, where you are talking about different things, but at the same time you're both using the channel. But it just feels like it's good to be in your own power as well, and to sometimes state things separately, only to almost work through your own blocks. But especially for you, I feel that. And I feel like it just has to do with clearing. Kind of being seen for who you are, and just being able to clear these blocks. Because it's almost like if you're always communicating in that way with someone else, it can almost feel like a protective kind of thing. That's why they're saying this. And it's not because it's bad to be doing these videos with the heart chakra. Definitely not. Because I feel like that's definitely a plus. And I also feel like the large majority of the videos, I feel like you're definitely going to be doing together, versus you doing any videos separately. But it feels like just here or there, it feels like it's good for you to do that, to just stand in your own space and speak from your heart and your throat chakra, and just kind of feel yourself and present yourself in an open way. And that's a really good thing. And I feel like if you guys continue with this, then they're also saying that if you were to continue with this and then the channel grew, then there's a feeling like, especially when it grows, it's good to do that sometimes, when there's more people that will see the video, hear you speaking. But I feel like you're gonna help other people break through their own blocks by hearing you, it feels like hearing you talk about yours. Not even that you're going, okay, that's the word I'm looking for, is through. By you talking through yours. Not necessarily talking about yours, but speaking through yours. I feel like you're going to end up helping other people get information that's going to help them. There are other things too here with this idea, but I don't know. They're holding back some things yet, and I feel like some things have to come almost to you and the heart chakra first. Because it feels almost like it will be more, I don't know, original and fresh if they just bring it through you. Plus, they have the ability to do that, obviously. So they don't need to say everything through these readings. Okay, so the other thing was when I was doing the reading with you and the healing came through as a psychic ability, as I'm saying it, and this was, so you hadn't asked the clairvoyance question yet, but as I'm saying this thing with the healing, I'm getting this feeling like she's gonna want me to say clairvoyance, she's gonna be asking about clairvoyance, and I don't know, I felt something about that. Not that you don't have clairvoyance, that's not what it was, but there was something kind of, I don't know if it was kind of a little bit of a blocked feeling there, but again, I feel like this is going back to the throat. It could be a thing of like getting something wrong, or again, just very much being open and being yourself in front of others. But there's a feeling like giving readings would be kind of a fearful space. To actually be doing that for other people on like a consistent kind of basis where you could get something wrong, or even just where you're being yourself in this more outward way, you're doing something that you love. It does feel like there are some fears connected to just to that idea in general, but also with psychic abilities specifically. I feel like you've had a couple of lifetimes probably, where something happened to you when it came to your psychic abilities as well. I know in the last reading, they were going on and on about different lifetimes where something happened with the heart chakra in that type of way. I feel like you've had that too, but I don't feel like you've had nearly as many where something happened to you like that. I also feel like you've explored other areas in your lifetimes where you don't have that as like the only theme for the most part that you keep exploring. I feel like there are a lot of other lifetimes as well where even lifetimes where you were spiritual, but it doesn't feel like you were mainly incorporating that kind of role. And this obviously just has to do with what your soul needed, kind of thing, for both of you, and in general for every soul, the lifetimes that they have. It just has to do with whatever it is that they need to incorporate for whatever reason or reasons. But you have had a couple of lifetimes like that, and so it feels like there is going to be some fear associated with that as well. But again, this is going back to the throat chakra. So this one area and this same thought form can be affecting different places. So I don't feel like they're going to talk so much about the clairvoyance thing, or developing that more until they've worked a little bit more through this throat chakra stuff. Because I feel like that's really the key here. That's what's really important, and that's what you really need to know right now, is what it feels like. And you need to know what this is linked to. So it feels like you were asking the right question when you sent that this week. And it is really funny that then the group reading ended up being all about that, and then another member of Patreon ended up sending something, a question about their throat chakra as well. So the council clearly wanted to address some of this throat chakra stuff. And you were kind of, I feel like everybody was kind of, feeling the throat chakra blocks that were there this past week or so. So this is something that's been kind of important to our group for a while, and it's something that that most of the people in our group are needing to clear and kind of remove. So it's kind of interesting. It's not like my other readings from the website, once in a while I get someone with a throat chakra issue, sure, but it's not like, one after the other, I'm doing readings for people and it's always the throat chakra. But with this group, it's always the throat chakra over and over and over, which is pretty interesting that you've all kind of chosen this group, and you all a lot of times have a similar block or area with a block that needs to really be focused on. I feel like you've also had a lifetime before where you really didn't have this, where you didn't have this throat chakra block, and you were really communicating very well and very freely, and this feels like Pleiades. So Earth is a little bit harder, obviously. So I feel like you had a lifetime on the Pleiades, though, where you were teaching. They don't mean like teaching like children or something like that, though. They don't mean like you were a teacher. They mean this in a more spiritual, or even I kind of get kind of philosophical kind of way. And it feels like you were male. It feels like kind of spiritual, almost oneness of the universe, kind of spiritual type of thing, but you took more of a philosophical kind of approach to it, it feels like. So it feels like you were very philosophical in the lifetime. Now, obviously, what the Pleiadians would be learning about and developing, and the questions they would be asking would not be as often, anyway, questions that we are asking, or, obviously they have a lot of answers to questions that people on Earth are asking, or they've solved a lot of the things that we're presently going through down here, or over here, or whatever you want to call it, kind of down here, because they're in a higher dimension, obviously, but they are still learning things. And they do still have, philosophers, and even people who are more psychically advanced, like they still have gifts. There are still people who are gifted in different areas with different things. For instance, like Talia, She is the high priestess on the Council for the Assistance to Earth. That's what she calls herself. So that's like, it's like she has like a position or a title on the council with specific things that she does. But she always describes it like on Earth, or on the Pleiades, she's reading in things like similar how I'm like reading on Earth in a sense. But obviously they're more psychic in general. But there's still people who, even if everybody were psychic to a degree in general, you would still have someone who came in with that gift in a more intense way that could help other people with that gift. So that's kind of how she describes it. She'll say like, oh, well, I do what Isis does in a sense, but she does it on the Pleiades, and obviously she would be extremely advanced with it, I'm sure. But she still talks about how she can help people tap into different things, and she can relay different information that she can gather and that they're not necessarily able to gather. Or even that they don't feel to gather. It's not always meant to come through in a specific way, you know, so you also have to go in the direction that you feel, even if it's through a person or whatever it is, you know. Even if it's going to a mountaintop, a specific mountaintop, or whatever it is, you have to go with your intuition and where it leads. But they're just explaining, so you can have this on the Pleiades. You know, you can have, they have gifts in a similar way that we do, that will stand out. So like here, everybody can count, you know, everybody can do basic math. And then you have someone, you know, you have Einstein who's insanely good at math, you know, as a for instance. Not that we all have to jump to Einstein versus I can do simple multiplication, but you get the point that they are making. So they still have that out there on other planets. They're people, and they're not robotic. They're not all the same. So you can have this position or title or thing that you do. So anyway, it feels like you were teaching on the Pleiades. You were teaching these kind of philosophical types of concepts. So it would feel more like not so much school exactly, unless it's kind of like a school of thought. But it feels like something that you are doing with adults, not so much like kids. And it feels like you're giving lectures, and it feels like a lot of the council members talk about this, not money, but some form of like exchange that they do have out there. Sometimes they call it like credit, but obviously it operates in an extremely free way, a very, very drastically different way from what we have down here. So it's very a fair way, you could say. They talk about how everybody has a certain amount of credit as well, that they are just sort of born with. And so they have, you know, they have any necessity that they would need. And that is something that you automatically are given. You don't have to kind of scrape to get things a lot of times like people have to do when they're born here, unfortunately. But there is this concept throughout the universe, really, of putting something out and receiving something in exchange. There is this kind of almost universal law in a sense. You know, you put out something, something comes back to you. That's just the way that things work. So it feels like, so in other words, this is almost like a job in a sense. And so you're receiving some kind of energy back for these teachings that you are putting out. You're lecturing others. And they're almost not lecturing others, but I mean like you're giving lectures to others is what they're saying. They're almost referring it to like really old philosophers, like way back in the day, like Plato or Socrates, people like that, and others as well. Aristotle, for instance, they're saying Aristotle, but like it feels like they almost had like a school of thought kind of thing, and people will go there and hear them and listen, and that's what they did. That was like their life. So it feels like that's kind of how you were out there. But the Pleiadian version, whatever that is. Okay, so that is all that your guides have to say for this week. So I will see you next week. Thank you so much for another reading. I truly hope that this has benefited you. Namaste.